Welcome to Brave Healer Productions. It's time to experience what's possible. So, what if there's something you haven't learned yet about writing that could change everything? Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are three of the amazing co-authors of one of our newest books. This one is called Writing, the Brave Healer's Guide for World Changers. And I've got a passion for this topic, you guys. This book, I'm like, why haven't you done this book before now, Laura? I'm so excited and so grateful to you three and the entire co-author cast for saying yes and gathering around me for this writing book. Because think about having this toolkit in your hands, all of the different ways we use writing really to transform our lives. We've got chapters about writing to heal and transform. We have chapters about manifesting your life, all the way to some of you three here today making a living off of it, right? And doing important things, making an income, oh my gosh, and everything in between. So this is going to be a really fun conversation. So let me introduce the people in my Zoom room to you. Kent Sanders is a ghostwriter for business leaders and founder of the Profitable Writer Membership, which helps writers increase their impact and income. Meredith Grundy is a New York City-based public speaking coach and go-to expert in high-impact communication, leadership presence, and presentation skills, turning complex ideas into stories that connect and inspire. And Dr. Ruth Souther is an author, hypnotherapist, Reiki master, astrologer, priestess, and shamanic breathwork facilitator. Her focus is to offer healing and support in the local community, as well as teaching workshops in various locations. Welcome, you guys. How's it going?
Welcome. So glad to be here.
Yes, thank you.
I'm happy to have all of you guys here today. Meredith, let's start this party off with you. So, in general, in your life, what has writing meant to you?
Oh, it has meant many different things. I know when I was younger, it was a way to heal, write down my thoughts, journal, take out all the anger I had towards my parents and get it out on the page, and all the drama that was happening as a high school student. And then I remember moving into college and it just being this really funny little relationship with writing, because I feel that I was trying too hard to write and sound like everybody else. And it wasn't until later that I gave myself permission to just write. And since then, and using my own voice, it has been such an amazing tool to help other people also find their voice, that they start with pen to paper and then find themselves on stage speaking out loud.
For your particular topic, which I love, because I've just been thinking about my journey of being able to stand on a stage. You know, you can't, well, maybe you can stand on a stage without first writing it. However, my process felt so much more powerful when I was able to script it first and then move through, and you taught me this, the beats of the talk. So thank you for all of the golden nuggets, you know, you're giving in this chapter, and also that the ones that you've shared with me about making that talk powerful. What else do you want to say about that piece of it? Like, if you know, if somebody's a little afraid, what do you want to tell them?
Well, I always like to tell people to start small, take baby steps, write something maybe short, and then share it with somebody out loud, whether that be on social media or whether that be live, like we are here on a podcast, a LinkedIn Live, wherever you show up in the world. And then it doesn't have to be written down word for word, and it doesn't have to be memorized either, but it's going to benefit you to understand structure and to at least be able to write down your thoughts and your ideas and allow yourself to be vulnerable, but do it in a way that you can practice a structure, and then that material becomes integrated for you. I feel like there's a lot of pressure for people to be perfect, and I'm inviting you not to be perfect. It's okay to be imperfect and a little bit messy. I always say there's magic on the other end of messy, but you got to be messy first.
I like that. There's magic on the other end of messy. That's perfect. Meredith, thank you for saying yes to this project, for being back with us to write about this subject. Thanks for being in my world.
Yeah, thanks for having me in your world.
So, Ruth, tell me a little bit about what writing has meant to you in your life.
I live in a fantasy world all the time. And I write fantasy, but I also write workbooks, sharing what I know. In the words of like Reiki or shamanic work, the word master means experienced. And so in my experience with writing, that is what I want to do, is share that with everyone. And I started very young writing these funny stories, fantasy stories, instructions, whatever I was wanting to write. I wrote everything, and I lived in that world a lot. And so I'm not going to say it saved my life, but it certainly allowed my mind to expand and play. And then I started researching mythology, and from there it just exploded into this world of magic. As Meredith was saying, it's if you looked at my office, it's messy, and that's where the magic happens, is in messy for me. So, yes, I encourage everybody to explore the kind of things that you are thinking and putting on paper. You never know what kind of story you got going.
Mm.
I want to kind of back up to, you were hesitant to say it saved your life. There have been a couple of people who exactly said that. And if you were going to comment on the lifeline that writing has been for you, what would you say there?
During my first marriage, when I was utterly miserable, I lost myself in writing. I wrote entire novels, which, by the way, I have burned because I never ever want anybody to find them because they were so, so bad. But I took writing classes at the college and all kinds of things. And that writing really did help me set myself aside from some of the difficulties that were going on in my life. So if you have a project to really concentrate on and you're working through characters, especially fiction, but nonfiction is the same way, it really does take you away from everyday drama.
Mm. For
It probably
sure.
saved his life, is probably
That's a good.
Good.
Could save a lot of people around us, so that they should be encouraging us to write more. Definitely.
right.
I love that, Ruth. Thank you for saying yes. And thank you also for being back in, you've been in multiple projects, and I'm just so grateful for your support and for your contribution to this one.
You're welcome anytime.
So, Kent, for
Yes.
you, what has writing meant in your life?
I think that's a really good question, Laura. And I think for me, it is represented an inner journey and an outer journey. So I have been a journaler my whole life since I was in college, which was about 687 years ago. Not quite, maybe, but it feels that way most days. And I started journaling. I've got boxes of journals at home, and it is always, even as recent as earlier this week, writing for me has been a way to process my emotions, my experiences, to kind of make sense of the world. And I think Ruth, I feel the same way you do. I would not want people, I would rather burn all that stuff than have somebody read most of it, mostly because it's incomprehensible to most people, probably. It's just ramblings and rantings and processing. But also there's things that you write as a journaler that you just don't want other people to read because it's private stuff. And all of us are that way, probably. So for me, writing has been a huge part of just my inner journey of processing, of thinking, of making sense of the world and myself. But it's also represented very much an outward journey. And what I mean by that is it's been a way for me to create income, to connect with people, to add value to the world. And I'm so grateful for that. I didn't really take advantage of those opportunities until probably the last 10 or 12 or 13 years, because I was in, just a different place in my life and working jobs that didn't really have a connection to writing so much. But I'm so grateful that I got into the world of writing for clients and ghostwriting and helping authors and all those kinds of fun things. Because those have, it's not just been a money thing, it's also been a way for me to grow and stretch. And one of the things that I love about ghostwriting in particular is that I get to learn from people all the time. And I'm constantly stretching and growing. In fact, just this week, I started with a new client on a topic and in an industry that I've never written about before. And so I'm thinking, wow, I get to spend all this time with cool CEOs and entrepreneurs and leaders who have an impact on my personal life, and I get to learn about their industry. And I just feel very fortunate to be able to do that. So for me, writing has, it sounds kind of grandiose, but it's been everything.
Um, I'm going to pause here, you guys. I'll have to edit it out. So, can you hear that? Okay. Um, let's just give it a minute. I was so happy for Kent to keep talking. Did I tell you guys what's going on? I might have told the last group. We're having windows put in today, and the timing was not the timing they promised me. And so they have gotten to some sort of drilling now, right in the middle of our question number one. So give me a second.
I
Is
didn't
it
hear anything.
how? Oh, you didn't?
I
Oh,
can
I
hear
can now.
it.
I can
Yeah.
now. Okay.
It never
Okay.
fails. It never, ever fails. And that is why I had to get an office privately away from home because when I try to do hypnosis at home, inevitably somebody was running a lawnmower.
It's
The
the
neighbor,
lawnmowers.
my husband, anybody, always.
It's always the mowers, isn't it?
It's always the mowers.
It is
In this
typically
case, it's
the
the drillers and the whatever, but yeah.
Do you have your audio set, Laura, for the Zoom sound in the background to be off?
say that again.
So if you go to your audio, it might
Yeah.
help. I don't know, but go to audio settings under the
Yeah.
little caret,
Got it.
and then you'll see Zoom background noise removal under audio profile.
Thank you.
Huh.
It's on medium. I should put it on high, maybe.
Yeah, and see how that works.
Background sound. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I can't hear it now.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Let's I'm going to ask you guys to just be quiet. I'm going to give myself a break so I can find this later. Okay, so Kent, I'm just like nodding and chuckling at some of the things that you said because it just sounds so familiar. The journals, for one, were a big, big, big one for me. But the thing I want to go back to what you said about the way that you're learning. I just said that to somebody the other day. I said, I'm so grateful I get to read all these books, all these beautiful
Hmm.
chapters, all of these master tools. I feel like lucky that I'm getting this education, if you will. And I'm sure that's kind of what you meant too, when you get to read people's whole books and
Totally.
everything. Yeah. What else do you want to say about that?
The thing that comes to mind for me is I think we all come to a place in life, and I don't want to be too philosophical about it, but at the same time, I think this is true where you come to kind of a fork in the road where you have whatever your career is or your pathway or whatever track you're on in life, however you would define that. But then you also have this other track where you you can go this direction, but it's going to require you to grow and to be uncomfortable and to do things that you're not necessarily comfortable with. For me, ghostwriting represents that path because there have been many times where I have been helping people with the book and thought, man, I just I feel kind of out of my depth with this. Or I'm meeting somebody who's this high level, very accomplished, successful business person. And as someone who came from the world of academics, that's not really my world. And so it's taken me a few years to get comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable. Now I'm very comfortable with discomfort, if that even makes sense. Not sure it does. But I think there just comes a time in your life where you have to decide, what do I want? And the things that we want are almost always on the other side of comfort. And some people are able to cross that chasm and some people aren't. And the people that aren't, uh, they're going to continue to actually ironically become more uncomfortable in life because they will not have gone toward their dreams and goals. I don't know if any of that makes any sense. It's just the way that I think about all this.
Totally does. And I love it. Thank you. Thanks for going there, going deep on this one. These topics are juicy anyway, but and this is big potato stuff to me. So I love that you talked about that. You guys, to all three of you, a huge thanks for taking the challenge I gave you to really give me a real vulnerable story about your path, right? You all did that so brilliantly, and those are healing in and of themselves. But then this next place in these chapters, talking to our listeners right now, you're going to have everybody's master tools, and they were very generous in that giving and teaching. So I can't wait for y'all to get your hands on this book. Let's talk a little bit about the why behind the stories you chose to share. Ruth, tell me a little bit about yours. You lived a minute, right? You could have shared so many different stories. What's a little bit of your why?
Well, I host and teach a writing class, and I have for a long time, physically before COVID and afterwards online. And everybody is so afraid. And when we have a book on memoirs, and that seems to be a little easier for people, but fiction scares people for some reason. And so I love fiction so very, very much. And so that's why I want people to have the tools. How do you write a good fiction story? And what is it that you want to watch out for? And what is it that you want to feed into the story? And so I don't know how many people have written fiction and other stories just because they have been in a class with me and other people that we teach. So I want people to be able to express and write fiction beautifully so that people say, is that real? Did that happen?
I love it. I've had a little bit of that fear because y'all know I'm a nonfiction gal. And I've dabbled once or twice because my secret is I want to write erotic fiction, but not very many people know that about me until now. But I've been a little bit afraid to go there. So I'm gonna have to come take one of your classes, Ruth. It's so much fun, right? And it's fun to dive into your imagination like that. So, okay, so Kent, tell me your why, a little bit more about your why, really specifically about the story that you chose to share.
Sure. I don't want to recap the whole story here because it's actually in the book, but I chose a very vulnerable story. I actually debated on whether to put this story in the book, to be honest with you, because I didn't want to look bad. But I think the older that I get, the more I'm always much more interested in just being truthful and honest and vulnerable and authentic than I am in looking good. And I always respect and appreciate people who just kind of share their honest journey. And there are ugly parts of all of our stories. And so I actually shared a story, and I'm not going to recap it here, but a story about one of the pivot points in my life that actually sent me toward wanting to ghostwrite full time and to have a writing business, which was that I got sued. We had gotten into a lot of debt, just our family did over the years, and one of our creditors actually sued us, and that really sent me into kind of a tailspin. It actually turned out to be not a massive deal, but I'd never been sued before. And when you go through that for the first time, you kind of think, wow, are the cops coming to my house today or what's going on with this? And it was just a real turning point for me. And I wanted to share that story in the book because whenever you see people who have some kind of success in their life or something that they perceive to be success, they oftentimes think it was a totally smooth road in getting there. And the reason that I got into ghostwriting to begin with was really just out of desperation. I wanted out of my college teaching job. I needed a plan B, and ghostwriting for me represented that pathway. It also happened to align with my main skill set and my interest in all that. But sometimes it takes a little bit of a kick in the seat of the pants in life, smacking us in the head with a gigantic 2x4 for us to actually make the change that we need to make. So although at the time that was really stressful, I'm really, really super glad it happened. But don't want to ever go through that again.
Yeah. We will not be attracting any more of that. Um,
Yes.
you're brave to share those kinds of stories, and it's really what I believe about this kind of storytelling is if you lined up 10, 100, 200 ghostwriters and you were going to choose the one for you, guess who I'm going to pick? I'm going to pick the one who shared the vulnerable story and helped me get to know them at that next level. This is what I think is actually missing in business writing,
I
is
do too.
that, yeah, they're not getting personal enough. And so they just sound like every other coach out in coaching land. And I'm just really grateful to you for sharing that story in the book.
Thanks for
Yeah.
the opportunity.
Meredith, how about you? Give me a little bit more of your why behind the chapter.
Well, I grew up in a very conventional household, and I have, for some reason, always been, I would say, unconventional in nature. The things that everyone else loved, I always questioned why they loved it so much. So I write a lot about that in my journey as a theater person, as a director, as an improviser. And so my why in this book is really pushing people to find their unique voice and to start taking more risk, because I personally feel that what I am seeing is formulaic and boring, and we can be pushing against convention a little bit more. And we also have, I feel personally, a responsibility to our audiences, which are changing. They have shifted. We now are more aware of different learners in our audience and how they receive information and remember information. We have shorter attention spans. We have different tools now. Everyone has a phone in their pocket. We need to figure out how to be more creative and to engage our audiences more and step out of conventional wisdom as speakers. And so that's really a lot of what my story is about.
I love that so much. I feel like I want to shout that message from the rooftops no matter what you're doing. How about you do it your unique, awesome way? And that could be the way that people are attracted to, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so I want to talk a little more about all of the tools you guys are offering in this book, because it's what I think sets our books apart in terms of who's coming into these to contribute. You all are gifting your master tools in a really practical way. So, starting with Kent, there's people who maybe they want to become a ghostwriter and maybe they don't know exactly what they need to know about it. What do you think is the most important message you want to share with our listeners today about ghostwriting?
I think that's a great question, Laura, and I appreciate you asking that because it gives me the chance to emphasize what I think is the missing component that I see not only with ghostwriters, although I'm this chapter is for people interested in ghostwriting, but I think it applies to anybody who is doing author services of any kind, including editors, designers, um, any type of freelance person, or anybody who has a business around writing, which is it's the missing component that I see so oftentimes, which is the relationship building, the networking, the connections. I know that when you say the word networking, especially in the context of writers, a lot of writers are more introverted. They don't put themselves out there very much. That doesn't apply to everybody, but all of us are around enough writers. We know that that's probably true most of the time. And that I think is the big differentiator, particularly for ghostwriters, but also a lot of other people, when it comes to building a robust business that is actually sustainable over the long term. It's not just about your writing skill or your ability to outline a great book or to understand an industry or all of those kind of strategic and craft oriented things. It's about do people know you? Do they trust you? Do they like you? It's all those things that we know are so true in business when it comes to relationships, but you have to care about people. You have to be grateful. You have to reach out to people. You have to be sometimes a little bit more assertive and a little bit more extroverted than maybe you're comfortable with. That to me has been the big differentiator, is just knowing a lot of people, connecting with a lot of people. For me, having a podcast for a long time has honestly been a massive differentiator in my business. I would, if I had to point it down to one thing, having done podcasting since 2012 or 13, and doing hundreds of interviews myself, just being connected with a lot of people has been a massive, massive help. There are a lot of great ghostwriters out there, but most of them kind of hold back and sort of would rather hide in their cave. But if you can learn to really love and appreciate people and be willing to be a little uncomfortable sometimes and putting yourself out there, that's a massive differentiator, I think.
Big time it is. And of course, you said it already. You're speaking about a lot of different things you could be doing other than ghostwriting. That thing is very important for everybody. The differentiator of someone who is connected like that is huge
Sure.
for the service they're providing. It just goes beyond and beyond when they're connected and can make introductions and connect you to other individuals you might need to meet. Oh, you got me started because this is one of my favorite topics of those connections. Um, yeah, I wrote a whole book about that, I think. Yeah, I did. It's called Networking for Healers, you guys.
Oh, I'm going to check that out.
Thanks.
That's going in my Amazon cart today.
Oh my gosh, it's yeah. That was really, really great advice, you guys. I hope you pause, rewind, and hear that again. Meredith, for you, when we talk about writing this signature talk, and I love how you say, you know, forget these boring talks, y'all, like, let's get it going. What's the most important thing you want people to know about that?
Well, I want them to allow themselves to brainstorm what that could look like really dig deep. Like, who are some of the speakers that stand out for you? Why? What is it about them that draws you in? Getting really clear too about what your big idea is and how it differentiates you from other people. And then again, just like in the writing, not being afraid to share and be vulnerable with those stories from, and of course, not speaking from an open wound, making sure that you're healed before you get in front of an audience, but how can you share those stories to help another person? Because I do truly feel that the more you can bravely share your story, the more you're going to change the world, because people can see themselves in your story and it gives them permission then to do what they need to do next with it. Uh, and there are many ways that you can go about that big idea and finding it and thinking about how to present that material. And so, what I mean by that is specifically, just as one example, would be, is there a prop that you bring on stage instead of a slide? Is there something you show us? Do you leave the stage and use the space, like the audience? Do you advocate enough for yourself and what it is that you want your presentation, how you want your presentation to be received? So I'm really inviting people. Yes, I'm giving you practical structure, but I'm also just asking you to, like, where can you break it?
I love that. Well, I like that as a sum up. Where can you break it?
Where can you break it?
That's awesome, Meredith. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Ruth. So let's hear your version of this for your topic. What's that most important thing you want people to know about I love your main title, by the way, Fiction Writers Lie. So writing that fiction story, building that tale.
First, you need to know your characters for sure, your world that you're building. And it depends, there are all kinds of fiction, all the way from cozy mysteries to epic fantasy. And that's what I write, is epic mythic fantasy. So knowing your characters is like the prime thing, and not trying to control them. I have people going, well, I want my character to do this, and they won't. And it's funny, but it's true that your characters take on a life of their own. So understanding who they are. So my tool is a rundown, all the questions you can ask your character, or ask yourself what your character, so that you get to know them inside and out. Then they would not do a certain thing, or they would do a certain thing. And I do that for every character I have in my stories, because then I know, yes, you've got three friends together. This one will, this one won't. This one's a maybe. And if you're writing epic fantasy, or actually any fiction, what is the world your characters are in? You have to know. You can't keep moving buildings or rooms. You can't give your characters a quality that they never had before. You have to stay true to what the story is. And why I called it Fiction Writer's Lie is because it's so odd, but people think that a fiction writer is just making stuff up in their entire life, all their life, even in regular daily. Well, you must be writing something that isn't true. And so then you must be telling me something that isn't true. It's very funny, actually. And maybe we do. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. All right. Y'all are going to have so much fun with this book, you guys. Do the exercises. Go pick your chapter, figure out which one resonates with you. Go try the exercises, try on those experiential parts of these chapters. It might change your life. To all of you today, Meredith, Kent, Ruth, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for having me and us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, listeners, this is way more than a book. This is a really generous community who is available to you. Maybe you heard something today that kind of sparked you, or you've got a question, or you're just curious about something. You want to continue a conversation about one of these topics. Great, because the authors are here for you to answer those questions. Come on down into the show notes. I have everyone hooked up with their websites. Go explore these things that they're up to. It's a lot and it is awesome, and they are there for you. And I think it's the thing I'm most proud of in general is about our community and how they're reachable, they're relatable, they're there to support you. You don't have to sit and wonder alone, right? You've got some really, really awesome expert people here to help you out on your journey. And of course, we would love for you to hop over to Amazon at this point, grab your copy of Writing, the Brave Healer's Guide for World Changers. Tell us what you think. We can't wait for you guys to get your hands on this book. Lastly, today, everyone, remember your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.